Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Megate Wade, who is an African entrepreneur, absolutely roasts Jamie Raskin for not only having his head in the sand, but refusing to understand how the economy is supposed to work. Let's dive in.
The core responsibility of the President of the United States is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, right? Not defied, not violated, not trashed, not rewritten, to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, which is precisely what's not happening today. As they say, Elon Musk, he's got all the power of the president. Donald Trump himself could not be doing what Elon Musk is doing in Washington today. He can't evaporate AID. He can't nullify the CFPB. He can't destroy an agency set up by us on a bipartisan basis in Congress. Nobody in the executive branch has that. Yeah, the president is on top of the executive branch, but we're the lawmaking power. And who sorts out the conflict if there's a conflict? The courts do. And what have the courts been saying? They've said a dozen times in 3 weeks that they're violating the Constitution of the United States and the laws passed by Congress. That's what's going on in America today. That's what we should be having a hearing about, not some airy academic conversation about the administrative state, whatever they mean by that. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
To lead the world diplomatically, to lead the world militarily, you first have to lead the world economically. And to lead the world economically, you need some basic things. You need readily available energy at affordable cost, and you need freedom. That's Mrs. Wade's point. And you know what? We had a lot more freedom when that chart that Mr. Smith just put up there was a lot lower in regulations, which would help people like Ms. Wade and Mr. Smith, the entrepreneurs who make our economy go and go and go, be able to do their thing. Ms. Wade, you wanted to respond to one of the Democrats. I forget who was asking or saying something. You wanted to respond. I'm going to give you a chance to respond, then I'm going to go to our economists and to Mr. Smith.
We know by now that organizations like the USAID funding NGOs have been actually undermining this type of initiatives because these are anti-business NGOs. So USAID hurting us, there you go. And then Mr. Correa, who is not here, I wish he was here when he had the nerves to tell us that these regulations are here to help us. I just would like for him to answer me to this situation. Around the 1800s, since the 1800s, it was known that lead pipes that were being used for, that we were using were toxic, bad, causing probably brain damages in children. As early as 1800, it was known. Then you tell me why is it that it took until 1986 for it to be taken care of. In the meantime, you had the mayor of Chicago who made it mandatory for builders to use lead pipes for the water pipes. Where did government really help us here? Where? I wish Mr. Correa was here. Government is helping us, these regulations are helping us, give me a break. And I see you looking at each other like this, I will send you my report on this, Mr. Raskin. So thank you so much for giving me that opportunity to respond, because it irks me when I see us sitting in these rooms and when I hear your fights. I don't hear government working for the people. I see government working for government, whatever the heck that sounds like, okay? And I would like, for one, that it is about my safety and about my well-being. And in situations like this, and in as many others like that, it is clear that these regulations are not put in place with us in mind, and that needs to stop. And the fact that, Mr. Raskin, you're here this whole time we've been here, you've just been complaining about the process. I'll call it a process. And again, I'm not disagreeing with your issues right now around Musk and the process that's following Mr. Vladek, the process that you're following. At some point, what is the end game? Isn't the end game to make us, the American people, better off? Isn't it? Isn't it? No, I hear you saying that the stuff that would make us better off doesn't matter. All you care about right now is a process of Musk and his associates are not doing this the right way. Is the goal moral and right or not?
Okay, you tell him, honey. You tell Megate Wade. That is an African economist who is absolutely livid with the administrative state. And by the way, Jamie Raskin, I think you know what the administrative state is better than anyone else in that entirety of Congress. If you want to know where Jamie Raskin represents, it is one of the wealthiest districts in America, the Maryland 8th District, which is quite literally right outside of Washington, D.C., in some of the wealthiest suburbs. It's the home of Lockheed Martin. It's the home of Silver Springs and Bethesda. It is the home of some of the wealthiest Americans in the country, okay? Period. We talk about Loudoun County, we talk about Fairfax and all the money that's out there. A lot of that money is now in basically Silicon Valley adjacent companies that come in and deal with data. But the old money is still in Maryland. Y'all, let's be real for a moment. As the larger government gets, the larger the administrative state gets. And that's something that Jamie Raskin does not want to admit exists, because he is literally the king of the administrative state, because the majority of the bureaucrats and the people with the wealthy contracts and the contractors for our armed forces, they all live in his district. Now, it is a fairly large district when it comes to the amount of recent minorities who have immigrated there, so congratulations, they get that to talk about. But the reality is, there's no middle class out there. I've had to live in that area of the country, and I can tell you, there's no middle class in Maryland. There's no middle class in Northern Virginia. It is either you work for a government or a government-related organization and make well over six figures, or you're lucky to make $50,000 a year. Okay, you will be lucky to be making that kind of money. There's no middle class out there whatsoever, either in terms of traditional economics or by just economic tax bracket. It is just a wild place to live. And furthermore, when it comes to Jamie Raskin and when it comes to Magate Wade, the entrepreneur said while listening to Raskin and other congressional members, it became apparent to her that these congressional leaders were not just ignoring you, but nagging you. And then you wonder to yourself, wait, are you not working for us? Have you not been put in this position? Are you not reporting to us? So this whole thing seemed upside down, Ms. Magate also shared. That's the sad reality. That's Democrat politics in a nutshell. It's not about serving the people. It's about making sure that there's no one that can come in and be that traditional middle class with that entrepreneurial spirit that can start a business and start something that makes you independent of everything and instead makes you dependent upon either the wealth of people who are quite literally relying on their government for their six-figure contracts, or they're barely scraping by and they're relying on government housing, and they're relying on other forms of government aid. This is the problem within the entire Californian economy. It's the problem with the Maryland economy. It's the problem with the Illinois economy, with the New York economy. You can name the big Democrat areas that are still controlled by the DNC, and guess what? There's no middle class. And that's exactly what Magate Wade is arguing about. That's her entire shtick. She has this book, Heart of Ikshita, and she talks about how her people, the Sinhalese, are some of the hardest working people on the face of this planet. And with the way she's angry here, I believe her. Because she wants a nation full of people that are independent, that don't have to rely on bureaucrats. There's even an excerpt in her book where she has to lament the fact that bureaucrats are so nagging in her home country, so nagging in France where she's also lived, and so nagging in the United States that in each of these places where she will go to get her hair braided, well, guess what? These people are technically operating outside of the law. That is how ridiculous the bureaucratic state can get. That is a huge problem to anyone with an entrepreneurial spirit, and it's a big problem to anyone who believes in what capitalism can actually do. See, America still has its pioneer spirit. That's what we have. That's who we are. We are a pioneering people. And that's also allowed us, not only in the 17 and 1800s, to be an expansionist people, but in the late 1800s, it made us a very dynamic people who were churning out invention after invention. And then we figured out how to streamline the automobile industry. Then we figured out how to quite literally control world trade and make sure that everything runs smoothly. We have been a pioneering nation into space, and now Elon Musk has moved here and he's once again bringing that pioneer entrepreneurial style spirit, and Jamie Raskin is out here complaining about him. Okay? Now, one place I will admit he's got a point. Our government relies on a constitution, which I'm shocked a Democrat has the guts to talk about now that Donald Trump is in power again. And unfortunately for Raskin, if you continue his line of logic, you'll then realize that he's complaining about nothing. He's complaining about Donald Trump running roughshod over the Constitution, except he isn't. We have this thing called a court system. We have this notion called checks and balances. So far, the courts are doing their job. That is why we have such an expansive federal court system, and that's to make sure that the presidency isn't going crazy and that Congress isn't being ridiculous. Well, we can't really solve Congress without better elections, and hopefully the people of Maryland will take the hint and get someone who is not named Jamie Raskin to represent them in the 8th District. But I think that's wishful thinking at this point, because the Democrats want a deep administrative state to say, yes, you can do this, no, you can't do that, and just soak up the middle class until there is once again only the wealthy and the poor. And when you have only the wealthy and the poor, you can control things much, much easier, which is the wet dream of the Democrats across the country. It needs to stop. That's why Magate Wade is so livid with the Democrats. That's why the Republicans love having her talk to us. And it's also why we're big fans of Elon Musk. We've seen what red tape does to pretty much every entrepreneurial spirit, and we've realized that we've got to start cutting things here and there, or else our economy will continue to stagnate. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.